original crown. It's true that you got from Bobby Shane. Bobby Shane gave it to you. That Bobby was killed later on, of course, right here in Tampa Bay, in an airplane crash.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it was funny. I had just and this was, I think, about in 1974 as well. What year did Bobby die? Do you know?
I think it was 76 or somewhere around there.
Yeah, you're right. It's 76, because that's when I was coming down to Atlanta to work with Jim Barnett a little bit. And so I was in the dressing room there well, first of all, I had just worked with Jackie Fargo on TV in Memphis on Saturday morning. And I said, I made my interview, and I was just talking off the top of my head, just trying to make it colorful. And I just looked in the camera and I said, Fargo, you've been the big shot around here. You've been the king of Memphis wrestling for a long time, but you're looking at the kid that's going to knock you off your throne. And so that was the last thing I said. And then that Monday night, I went over and beat Jackie. And as I was walking back to the dressing room, some young kids were slapping me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you're the king now. You're the king." And I really didn't think anything about it. But then that Friday night, I went down to Atlanta, and all of a sudden, I'm sitting in the locker room, and in walks Bobby Shane. And of course, Bobby had never worked up in Memphis for us, so I didn't know that anybody was wrestling and he was wrestling as King Bobby Shane, and this beautiful brown and this robe draped over his shoulder. And all of a sudden it jogged my mind about what I'd said and what those kids had said, and I said, "Oh my gosh, Bobby, where did you get the crown?" And I mean, I told him the story. I said, "I just made this interview last week." I said, "If I could find one of those crowns and show up next week on TV in Memphis with that, it'd be, such a hoot. It'd be awesome." And he said at that time, he said, "Well, you know what?" And I'll never forget. I ordered them from a place in Houston, Texas called Southern Importers. You could order, I got the magazine. I got a catalog from them, and you could order any kind of Hollywood gimmicks, mask, outfits, tiaras, crowns, and all this kind of stuff. It was for, they just made all kind of, trinkets and really unusual kind of stuff. But he said, you order from there. He said, but you know what? I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going for Jim Barnett down to Australia. I'm going to be down there for 3 weeks. And he said, I'm just going as Bobby Shane because I didn't want to lug all this stuff with me on the trip. And he said, why don't you do this? I'll loan you this crown and this robe, and you show up, because I was going back that night. It was Friday night. I got a midnight flight back to Memphis, and then I'd be there for TV the next morning. He said, you're going back? He said, take this thing after the show, the crown and the robe, and you can have it on TV in the morning, then order it. By the time I get back from Australia, you'll have your own crown in. And so that's how it happened. Wow. I took the crown with me that night. I showed up the next morning on Memphis TV, and there I crowned myself the king of wrestling and king of Memphis. And then, of course, a few weeks later, when Bobby got back from Australia, I never got to see him. Once he got back, he got killed in the plane crash down there.
Wow.
Did they get heat right away when you walked out with the crown and the robe? Was that, did you know right away?
Well, you know what? It was so funny. It was, that was back in the day. There were a few young kids that liked the heels, but yeah, it got major heat with most people. But there were just that little few people that thought it was the coolest thing ever. I started coming in on a sedan chair, having them carry. I played the king gimmick to the hilt there for a while.